Hi. Okay, so I was sitting there, and the guy that I was dating looked at me and said, this was back when I was bartending. He looked at me and he said, the guy working the door is selling drugs. You know that, right? And I was like, no, but in that moment, my heart sunk because I knew that if the person working the door was selling drugs and the alcohol beverage control came in, that the liquor license for the business would be in jeopardy. And I also knew that for me, having a job was the most important thing. It was how I maintained control of my life. It was my lifeline of safety. And so when the guy I was dating told me that my doorman was selling drugs, the heart sunk. And it was deeper than just a disappointment in your friend, because my friend was working the door, but it was this deep fear of something bigger. You see, when it came to my jobs, it was the one place I felt like I had some sort of control, because my childhood was not very much control at all. And the way I learned to navigate my childhood was to follow the rules, follow my mom's rules. But my mom's rules were inconsistent, unpredictable. One day it would be do this, another day is like, that's wrong. And I would get in trouble for it. So I loved working. I loved working because the rules were consistent. All I had to do is show up and follow the rules, and my safety was taken care of. They would give me money, and I would go above and beyond and do everything I could to make sure that everything was running smoothly. I ended up being the manager at most of the places that I worked because of that propensity that I had to take care of everything. But now here I am in this situation where this person who's working there is putting my safety at risk, or my perceived safety. Like, I thought it was the job that kept me safe. And so I didn't know what to do, because this was a friend of mine, right? This is now this really tough decision. It's like, what do? Do I confront my friend and then maybe he doesn't stop and then I lose my friend? Do I tell the owner and then I still lose my friend? So I'm at this point where I feel like I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. And I also don't have proof. I just have the word of some dude that I'm dating telling me that, hey, your doorman's selling drugs. So I tried to figure out what to do, right? Because I'm trying to stay in control and trying to make sure that I stay safe and don't lose anything. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want, the bar to get in trouble and was to lose the liquor license and then I lose my job. And I don't want to lose my friend. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I feel very conflicted. And so I decided that I was going to ask the owner if I could look at the cameras, because I needed to know for sure before I made any decision. So I look at the cameras and it's very clear that my doorman is selling drugs. And so the problem is that the owner decided to sit in and watch me while I was looking to see what I was looking for. And he also could see that my doorman or the doorman was selling drugs. And now I have inadvertently told on my friend. I didn't make that decision yet because I was trying to figure out and be in control and all of that. But the decision was made, and now the owner knows that he's selling drugs. So what ends up happening is the owner had a conversation with the doorman, and he told him that I was the reason why he was having this conversation. The owner told the doorman that I'm the one that told on him, but I hadn't even done that yet. So I lost my friend, and that sucked. But the worst part, I guess, was at the time was that now I would have to face my friend every single day because the owner didn't fire him. The owner let him stay working there. And so now I have to be faced with this uncomfortable aftermath of the decision that I made. And that was, this is one of the reasons why I avoided confrontation my whole life, is because I was afraid of people not liking me. I was afraid of the consequences of what would happen if I stood up for myself. And so in this case, I didn't actually stand up for myself. I did a little sneaky around the back thing. And it wasn't the first time I'd done a sneaky around the back thing, especially when it came to my jobs, especially when it came to people I thought were putting my job at risk. And in my mind, subconsciously, this was about safety, because for me, job meant safety. I didn't have this feeling inside like, oh, I could just go out and get another job if this job doesn't work out. I didn't feel that way. I felt like I had to hang on to it no matter what. And that need to hang on, that need to control, it messed with my sense of freedom. It messed with my ability to make decisions and be able to choose things that were right for me. See, once I had the thing that I thought gave me safety, I had to hang on to it forever, because then if I lost it, then I would not be safe. And this was a pattern from childhood, right? I had to stay and hang on to my mom because I thought she was the thing that made me safe, even though ironically she was not making me safe. But that doesn't matter. Like, as a kid, you feel like your parents are the thing that keeps you safe. So you feel like you need to hang on to them. You need to do what you need to do. You need to follow their rules. And like I said, my mom's rules were inconsistent and unpredictable and illogical and always changing. So the job was a really great thing for me because it allowed me to feel safe, to follow the rules. But fuck, when somebody else wasn't following the rules, it sent my nervous system into a fucking panic. So it didn't matter if they were my friend or not, but I felt like I had to get them to follow the rules. I mean, and it's even like the park that I'm sitting at, they're not supposed to have dogs run on the main lawn. And I used to go tell people like, oh, hey, that I would do it disguised wise. Like, I always couldn't do it straightforward because of that fear of confrontation. But I would just be like, oh, they give tickets to people's dogs running on the lawn. So if you don't want to get a ticket, maybe you might want to not run your dog on the lawn. I couldn't just say like, fuck, you're breaking the rules. Stop it. It's driving me fucking crazy. Because it was driving me crazy. Because for me to stay safe, I had to follow the rules. And so I made it in my mind that everybody else had to follow the rules. And if they weren't following the rules, it made me feel unsafe. It made me feel fucking crazy. So when my doorman was selling drugs, it made me feel fucking crazy once I knew about it. And I couldn't just be at peace at work, which is, again, like I said, the structure and the consistency of the rules was very peaceful for me as compared to what I grew up in. And so other times in my life, like there were times when I had friends who were also coworkers who were just assholes to the customers all the fucking time. And they were driving business away. And that sense of like, you're fucking with my money. You're fucking with my safety. I never equated money to safety, but to me, like back then, but it for sure was about that. And like, you're fucking with my safety. You're fucking with the business. You're fucking with the rules, right? The rules are we're supposed to be nice and we're supposed to cater to the customers and make a good environment, and we all make more money. My mom always told me, if you take care of the business will take care of you. And, or no, I lied. But that's actually true, is the more you take care of the business ends up taking care of you in the bar industry, because that you create more customers. But the saying that she said is, if the business takes care of you, then you will take care of the business. But here she told me that, and here I had coworkers that were not taking care of the business, even though the business was taking care of us. And so I fucking went behind my friends' backs and I told on them. I was a fucking tattletale. I betrayed my friends for the sake of the business, for the sake of the thing that I thought was keeping me safe. And I didn't do it once. I did it multiple fucking times. I don't think I've ever said that out loud to anybody. I did it when there were 2 employees who were totally driving business away. 3 employees, I told on all 3 of them. And then I told on another person who was pouring the house out, which means giving tons and tons of free drinks. I told on that person. And another person that was pouring the house out and giving away tons and tons of free drinks. And over the years, like, I did this all in secret, all behind the back, my little manipulation, puppeteering to control and keep myself safe. But this time, with my doorman selling the drugs, I was outed. And so I had to face the consequences of being a tattletale, even though I didn't technically tell, but I did tell. I set up the situation. I didn't say to my owner, like, hey, can you leave the room while I figure this out? I just let him sit there and watch. Because again, I was afraid of confrontation. I didn't like the confrontation. And again, that's another sense of trying to control. So I was always fucking trying to control everything so that people would follow the rules, because I thought the rules kept me safe, because as a kid, that's what kept me safe. As long as I did what my mom said. It didn't matter if it changed from this week to next week. I had to like feel into what she was feeling and try to predict how she was going to respond, if she was going to like this. Oh, her mood matches the time she liked this, so maybe I'll do that. Or, oh, now this is a different mood from the time she liked it, so maybe I can't do that. I don't know. I have to tread lightly, and just always on edge. And so what tends to happen is we tend to trade one thing, or at least I did, trade one thing that we think keeps us safe, like my mom, for another thing that I think keeps me safe, which was the job. And I got my first job when my mom physically assaulted me when I was 15. And she hadn't done that since I was 8. And I threatened to call social services on her, because that, like, doing that actually kept me safe, because she was physically abusive before that. But she was growing weed, and, social services come into the house would be a bad idea. So she stopped physically assaulting me. And then at 15, when she physically assaulted me, I moved out, and I ended up moving back in, but only after I had gotten a job, because that was my safety net. And so for me, having a job was about control. And control in general, whether you're trying to control your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your boss, your kids, it's about safety. It's about feeling unsafe. We don't try to control people and things if we feel safe. And there's a difference between suggesting, but being okay if it doesn't go that way. Like, I could have asked my doorman, hey, it's really messed up. You're putting everybody's job at risk. by selling drugs at the door. Can you stop? And then let go of the attachment of what happens, like not needing to control it. So, he would have made his choice. And at that point, I would have let go. And that would have been like, that's a very different thing than if I had the need to control, which I did. I would be like, oh, if he didn't do it, I would just be on his case. I thought you were going to stop selling drugs. I thought you were going to stop selling drugs. Like, like trying to control him and trying to make him do it because I was so attached to the outcome. So we can try to maneuver things in the way that we want by taking action, asking questions, making suggestions, doing all of those things, but we can't be attached to the outcome. Like you could suggest to your kid that they go to college and you could tell them that it's a great idea and you'd really like that, but you can't be attached to the outcome. Otherwise, you're trying to control your kid. And chances are your kid will probably try to do what you want, depending, unless they're the rebellious type. But for me, I had to control other people that weren't following the rules because I thought the rules were what kept me safe. And it didn't matter if somebody was breaking a stupid rule, even if it's the stupidest fucking rule, it still made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel triggered. Like when I would watch the dogs run on the main lawn in the park, I mean, it would drive me crazy. I would come to the park to have my little bit of peace time, and I would just sit there and see them. And it took me the longest time to figure out it was because I felt like I had to follow the rules. So watching somebody break the rules made me feel anxious because they were a reflection of what I could not do. They were a reflection of freedom, something that I didn't feel that I had. And I never even knew that I wanted freedom. My mom talked about freedom and I, of course, didn't want to have anything that she wanted. But I never thought that freedom was something I wanted because I had chosen to live in the box of the rules because that gave me a sense of control. It gave me a feeling of safety. I used to say like, oh, it would be fine if I ever got arrested for something I didn't do because I would know that I followed the rules. My mom was a real stickler for privacy and things like that, probably because she was breaking the rules, growing weed and selling drugs and doing things like that. But I always thought like, as long as I wasn't doing anything wrong, as long as I followed the rules, that I would be safe, even if I got hauled off and taken to jail, and that somehow because I had done it right, that I would be safe. And we know people get framed, people get falsely accused, and people get falsely imprisoned. And so that thinking is naive, but it goes to the framework of what I chose to believe in when I was little, is that following the rules will keep me safe. And when I started running my own business, and I started really, like, I gave up the safety net job and really leaped in to run this business. All my other businesses that I had, I kept the safety net job because, control, safety. But when I stepped into really trying to make this business work, what ended up happening is that I was still trying to follow the rules. Oh, this person says, this business guru says you need to do this, so I would do that. Oh, this person says you need to do that, so I would do that. And I would be juggling all these different strategies of what I thought I needed to do, but none of them were working. And then I hired people to help me, and I did everything that they said, but nothing was working because I wasn't living my life. Following those rules, living in those boxes, I was living somebody else's life. There was no autonomy. I was literally, all you had to do was whisper, you should do this, and I would do this. You wouldn't even have to say you should. You could say, you could imply it. You could say something like, oh, hydrogen water is really good and it makes me feel great. And then I would think, because I had to follow the rules and I had to do, everybody knew more than me. Everybody, like the other people's rules were more important than my rules. And I would think, oh God, I probably need to look into hydrogen water. So I was super suggestive. Like if you were trying to sell something, pretty easy to convince, easy mark here. Um, I used to say I wasn't naive, but I was gullible. And it was because all you had to do was tell me a set of rules that I should be following or imply a set of rules that I should be following. Because for me, even though I was doing all these things to keep me safe, I never actually felt safe. And because I never felt safe, I would I would keep leaning into and looking for something to make me feel better. You know, I was just on a podcast yesterday and they asked, well, how did you get into what you do? And I said, well, honestly, I was just always on a quest my entire life to feel better. And I didn't really understand that I wanted freedom. I didn't understand that I had a bunch of trauma in my way. I didn't understand that I felt unsafe all of the fucking time. But I did understand that I didn't feel the way I think you're supposed to. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel happy. I know my mind was spinning. I know I couldn't sleep. I mean, I spent 20 years not being able to sleep. And so I did all the things. I did, you know, in the early days, I did acupuncture. That helped me with my migraines. That was great. Let me do more of that. I did, you know, there was drinking and all of that stuff. Did that. Did the working out obsessively. Did that. But none of these things actually got me to feeling better long term. They made me feel good for the short term, but they didn't make me feel good for the long term. So I continued the journey. I started doing yoga. I started fasting. I started doing a whole bunch of vitamins, and all of those things helped a little bit. I did, and then I continued, and then I did things like ayahuasca ceremonies, shamanic healings, and therapy. I did 10 years of therapy. All of that stuff, it helped a little bit, but it was never enough to make me actually feel good, the kind of good that I was chasing. And it wasn't until I started studying NLP and hypnosis that I started to get some relief. Some of my triggers, some of the anxiety started to go away. And fuck, I didn't even know. Like, right, I was trying to feel good and trying to feel better, but I didn't even know how bad I felt. I didn't even understand that I had anxiety. I didn't understand that I had social anxiety because I was a extrovert, right? In my mind, I was an extrovert, even though I would sit in the corner in a new room and be against the wall and hide. Okay, somebody's asking, Adrian's asking to be on Go Live with me. Let's see. Good to talk about. And if it doesn't work, then we will continue with the conversation. All right. Okay. So I tried all the things. And some of the things finally started to work, and I started to understand, oh shit, I have anxiety. And if you have anxiety, if you have control issues, probably you have both. Because oftentimes anxiety is about being safe, feeling safe. And that feeling that if you step into more of who you are and do more of what you really want, that there are going to be consequences. And so that was the kind of anxiety that I felt my whole life. Not being safe or stepping into me or trying to be me or trying to do something outside of the rules that maybe was more right for me was a cause for anxiety. But it was just the way I felt all of the time. And until I started getting rid of some of that anxiety, I didn't understand that that's what I had.
And so I continued doing the things, and the things that I studied helped, and my clients were having great results and all of those things. But it wasn't good enough, deep enough for me to get the results that I was trying to get, because I had had these little pockets of the feeling that I was trying to achieve. Little moments where the high was so high, and I'm not talking about drugs, even though, I did those too. But the high was so high where it was like, oh, this, but I could never hold it. And so I just got deeper and deeper with my work, and my work transformed into something completely different than what I studied. But the results, like, I started to have this internal freedom. And I'll never forget the day that I was watching the dogs run on the park. And I was just smiling, enjoying watching the dogs run on the main lawn, the lawn that they're not supposed to run on. And it dawned on me afterwards. I was like, holy shit. I didn't feel any need or any anxiety or any irritation with them not following the rules. And that was a sign that I had broken free, because if other people not following the rules wasn't making me feel anxious, it meant I could follow my own rules. I wouldn't have to I wouldn't have to live bound by what other people said or thought was the right thing, so that I could stay safe. That in fact I could feel safe just being me. And sometimes that means following the rules. Other times it means breaking the rules. Whoever's rules. But what it really means is following the rules that are right for me. And it took a long time to get to that point where I could do that. It took decades. But because of that journey and all of the different things that I tried and all the things that I discovered in the trials and the tribulations, I've been able to shorten that journey for other people. So instead of taking 25 years, 20, even more than that. Yeah, fuck, more than that. Shit. Um, we could do this in 9 months to 18 months. And to be able to live in a place where you just feel at ease, and moving through life is easy, and you walk into a room and you notice what's right and what's good instead of what's wrong, and being able to connect more deeply, being able to say, oh shit, if my doorman is selling drugs and the bar goes under and my job is gone, I'll be okay, I'll figure it out. But be able to feel that fully and completely. If I lose all my clients and my business goes under, I'll be okay. And feel that in every ounce of my body. That has been worth every minute of suffering to be able to get to this place. And it took me more than 25 years. And maybe you'd like to do it in a shorter amount of time. I have some things out there for you that, we can start on that journey so you can shorten your time. You could be on my Be the Wolf Live. So that's a live Instagram show. We could dig deep into what's getting in your way. If you want to be on Instagram Live, send me a message, send me a DM. I also have events coming up. I have a firewalk event coming up, and that's something that will help you to break through a lot of that need for control so that you can feel more free in your everyday life. And I have coaching available. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, if you want to shorten that journey from anxiety and control to freedom and ease, send me a message. All right. I'll see y'all later. Bye.